Today, we celebrate our reason of existence. Today, we shall celebrate the life of a man who taught us to see this beautiful world when there were no eyes to appreciate it. Good evening, everyone, on 106th birth anniversary of Dr. G. Venkataswamy, founder of Aravind Eye Care System. Dr. V was the reason of light in innumerable households which were living amidst darkness. With help of kindness and empathy, he was able to light the candle which filled people's life with the positivity he had envisioned. Let us come together in remembering the values and principles he wanted all of us to follow. Now, I request Mr. Sanil on stage to start this evening with the prayer song.
Om Sarvesham Swastirbhavatu Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
On 1st October 1918, in a small town, a sun rose. Sun, meaning light, meaning knowledge. Sun, which with its light was going to give vision to millions. Dr. V taught us not only what hard work could do, but also taught us to dream. He showed us that no dream is too big, no dream is too far-fetched.
This is the story of an aspiring young boy who dreamt about becoming a doctor.
Nobody had become a doctor in my village or in my community also at that time. I remember vividly when I must have been hardly 4 or 5 years old. Next door to house away, I heard a shouting and yelling in the early morning. And I was told that the pregnant woman during delivery died. A young woman, hardly 20 years old, suddenly dying away, and you don't see her anymore. And I said, can you not do something to prevent it?
Dr. Venkataswamy entered medical school envisioning a future as an obstetrician. In 1944, he got inducted into the Indian Army as a medical officer. In a drastic turn of events, 4 years later, he was discharged after contracting a rare form of rheumatoid arthritis. This condition left his fingers permanently crippled, barring him from further pursuing obstetrics.
That is how I got into the eye hospital. Sheer accident. And even after joining the eye hospital, walking a few steps was difficult, painful. Holding a pen was difficult, and holding a surgery was difficult. It took some years for me to pick up surgery.
Despite his debilitating illness, Dr. V trained as an ocular surgeon and went on to personally perform more than 100,000 successful eye surgeries. At the age of 58, Dr. V retired as a government ophthalmologist. With his brothers and sisters, he opened an 11-bed eye clinic called Aravind. which today provides high quality, high volume, and affordable eye care to millions of people. Dr. V's commitment to equitable eye care led to the founding of Orolab, that produces state-of-the-art ophthalmic drugs, instruments, and implants. LICO, the Lions Aravind Institute of Community Ophthalmology, was founded under his guidance to enhance eye care services worldwide through partnerships, capacity building, training, and research. Dr. Venkataswamy's life and mission have been deeply intertwined with a grand purpose and spiritual values guiding numerous institutions and individuals to bring light to even the most remote citizens affected by blindness.
I used to sit with the ordinary village man because I am from a village. And suddenly he turned around and then you seem to contact his inner being. You seem to be one with him. But here is a soul which has got all the simplicity of confidence. Doctor, whatever you say, I accept it. An implicit faith in you. And then you respond it. Here is an old lady who has got so much of faith in me. I must do my best for her. Now, how am I going to train myself to do perfection?
He has exemplified incurring the divine through a lifetime of servitude and his incessant efforts towards ameliorating the difficulties faced by those with impaired vision and helping oneself in the process. The October Summit is observed every year in honor of the birth anniversary of our founder, Dr. G. Venkataswamy. The summit features events which deliberate the real issues relating to eye care programs and services, and to find and replicate innovative solutions through sharing experiences and mutual consultation. To commemorate Dr. V's noble mission and values among the eye care community, the Dr. Venkataswamy Memorial Award recognizes and honors individuals who have significantly contributed towards the goal of eliminating needless blindness in the community through clinical work, advocacy, or research. This year, October Summit 2024 focuses on important challenges in eye care, replicating technology-enabled primary eye care centers, throwing the spotlight on best practices in eye care program management, capacity building for eye care in aspirational districts, enhancing eye hospital management by sharing the best practices and innovations, global consultation on enhancing effective cataract surgery and refractive error coverage. To see is the right of every human being. As a way of honoring the legacy of Dr. V, let us all unite to carry forward his mission to ensure that no one remains blind for lack of simple delivery of eye care.
ஒரு கனவை நெய்தவரே, பெரும் கனவாய் நின்றவரே, வரும் காலம் கடந்தவரே, பெரும் வரமாய் வந்தவரே, பெரும் வரமாய் வந்தவரே.
Now, I would like to welcome Sanil Sir's group to take us on a melodic journey with a bhajan.
ज्योति 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 नित्य सनातन ज्योति नितांत सौभग ज्योति 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 नित्य सनातन ज्योति नितांत सौभग ज्योति 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 नित्य सनातन ज्योति ईश्वर पार्श्व निवासं ज्योति ईशोन्मुखितं वचनं ज्योति ईश्वर पार्श्व निवासं ज्योति ईशोन्मुखितं वचनं ज्योति 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 नित्य सनातन ज्योति अन्धध्वंसन दीपं ज्योति सुन्दरनाद स्वरूपं ज्योति अन्धध्वंसन दीपं ज्योति सुन्दरनाद स्वरूपं ज्योति 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 नित्य सनातन ज्योति प्रपञ्च प्रहर्ष प्रणवं ज्योति प्रकाशमण्डल नाळं ज्योति प्रपञ्च प्रहर्ष प्रणवं ज्योति प्रकाशमण्डल नाळं ज्योति 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 नित्य सनातन ज्योति मानुषमांस स्वरूपं ज्योति मानव हृदय प्रणयं ज्योति मानुषमांस स्वरूपं ज्योति मानव हृदय प्रणयं ज्योति 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 नित्य सनातन ज्योति निदान सौभग ज्योति 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 नित्य सनातन ज्योति
A great man is different from an eminent one in that he is ready to be the servant of the society. These words were spoken by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, but they perfectly encapsulates what our founder stood for. He isn't here with us today, but we can surely ask from those who had the pleasure of knowing him closely. I would like to welcome Dr. R.D. Ravindran sir, Chairman of Aravind Eye Care System, to welcome the gathering and enlighten us regarding the prestigious award.
Good evening. Thanks to Sanil and his team, and also for the LICO team for making that wonderful video and also the bhajan song. So, dear Dr. Martin Spencer, dear Dr. Martin Spencer, respected senior leaders, Dr. P.N. sir, Dr. G.N. madam, other founding members of Aravind Eye Care System, the ophthalmologists, the MLOPs, and all the other support staff who work in various branches, various divisions of Aravind Eye Care System, the friends and supporters of Aravind, and the representatives of various NGOs who have joined online. I have great pleasure in welcoming all of you for the 106th birth anniversary of Dr. G. Venkataswamy and for the award ceremony we have in his memory. So on this occasion, it is my pleasure to especially welcome Dr. Martin Spencer, the recipient of today's Memorial Award. Like our founder, Dr. G. Venkataswamy, Dr. Martin Spencer is also associated with 𝐜𝐸𝐴 Foundation in America and Canada for a very long time. It is during these meetings, which happen every year, Dr. Martin Spencer has met with our chief, Dr. Venkataswamy, from early 1980s. So on this invitation, he visited us sometime in 1988, and his first visit was to Madurai and Theni, and that was a year we also have opened Tirunelveli. Subsequently, he had made several visits, teaching all of us extracapsular cataract extraction surgery, manual small incision, 𝐂𝐞𝐫𝐴 and many other things. And on this occasion, we are really happy that he is here to deliver the oration in memory of Dr. V. In this occasion, I would like to share something about our chief. I had the opportunity to be with him from 1982 for the next about 20 odd years. Our founder is a role model for showcasing the significance of spirituality in contemporary life. He showed how one can integrate professional life. We perform daily with the spiritual values and lives as taught by Sri Aravind and other spiritual leaders. Our chief was greatly moved or motivated by Sri Aravind and also by the teachings of Gandhiji. I joined the Aravind in the year 1982 as a postgraduate like many of you. That's about 42 years back, along with Dr. Ramakrishnan. So those days, the hospital starts at 6 in the morning. So all the postgraduates and the junior medical officers, we didn't have the fellows. So we used to come early in the morning to prepare the patient for surgery, what we call as a trial bandage. All the patients who are undergoing surgery will have a bandage. We used to open, clean them and prepare them for surgery. And by the time we come, Dr. V also will be there by 6:10, 6:15. And he'll come to the theatre by around 6:45, 6:50 to start the surgery, and the first surgery will happen at 7 o'clock. The time that 6:15 to 6:45, 6:50 is in the room reading usually the book written by Sri Aravindo called Savitri. It's a spiritual book, and or Gita, some other spiritual books. And again he'll come up to the first floor, spend some time in the meditation room, and then only he'll come to the operating room. And he talks about the time he spends in the meditation room. In one of the talks he gave in the School of Divinity in Harvard. You saw a part of the clip in the video. There he says that he talks about beginning his day in the hospital at 6:30 a.m. by going to the meditation room for a silent talk with the God. So that is what he mentions. During meditation, he asks God to make him a better tool for the divine force to act through him and to be able to overcome the afflictive emotions or the negative emotions like anger, greed, jealousy, and egoism. So, we always know that he goes every day. He has never missed a day going to the meditation room, whichever hospital, all our hospitals. Fortunately, we have the relics of Sri Aurobindo placed in that hospital. So, he will always start his day in any hospital visiting that thing. And interestingly, he also asks the divine to be able to find just the right way to show compassion, not just to the patient, but to each of the staff he will see on that day, soul to soul. That's what he mentioned. He also acknowledges in the talk that being compassionate to the staff is not very easy at all times. So I'll just read a paragraph from that. It is all there in the book called Illuminated Spirit. I'll just read briefly about that book. From that, there is in page number 29 and 30, he talked about love and goodwill to the staff. He says that I want to radiate love and goodwill on all occasions without giving any place in my consciousness to pride or prejudice. I want to love the patients and staff uniformly all the time. And he goes on to say that I know that I create a sense of fear in my staff if they come late or if they are not efficient in their work. This has become a strong habit with me as I have been keen to maintain discipline and work. And he says, I should have tried love and kindness rather than instilling fear in them. So that is how he ends. But again, he goes on to say how this can be done. Like, for the future leaders, the current leaders and the future leaders. He says that I find that when people are not effective in maintaining discipline, moral declines, and the quality and quantity is also very particular. Not only the quality but the quantity of the work also decline rapidly. It would be ideal if discipline could be maintained with love and kindness. So it's a very difficult combination. Using love and kindness and also maintaining discipline is not easy. But when some people have complete freedom to act, they degenerate very quickly, and he says that they still need some amount of external force to maintain discipline. This is very important for any service industry because discipline is the foundation for an industry, an organization which is involved in healthcare, especially when we are delivering it in a large volume. Then again, he goes on to say in that about what real discipline is and what is the importance of spiritual force. If people could grow into higher consciousness and act from the higher level, they could influence others. Probably this is what the message he has left to the future leaders. And again, for the disciples, people who are doing the work, he says a real discipline will come only when people are motivated by spiritual force. I mean, he talks a lot about the spirituality and the discipline. And he is a role model for practicing the core human values of compassion, empathy, equity, transparency. But at the same time, he was a very strict disciplinarian. Like the two faces of a coin, he is a person known for compassion and also for discipline. So Dr. V is also put all whatever he wanted to achieve spiritually through action. All of you, we all know that there are two ways we can see God. One is through action, other one is through knowledge. But through action is the better way to do it, and it is called, say that it's karma yoga. And he constantly focused on how he can create access for the patient, for everybody who needs eye care. Initially, after he started Aravind Eye Hospital, he tried to reach the patients or create access through the eye camps and by opening the free hospital. But subsequently, several hospitals were opened. When we had more patients from Theni, a hospital opened in Theni. Then Tirunelveli, then Coimbatore, Pondicherry, Chennai, Tirupati. Any hospital you take, it's all because we are getting more number of patients from there, either to Madurai or to some other place. So that is how the whole expansion has happened today. I still remember, and all these hospitals have got a free section. Sometime back, one of our secondary hospitals did not have a free section. Dr. P.N. sir was very particular that we should open it and create the infrastructure to open it. And it is part of our gene now. So any hospital we open now, we open it with a free section. And today we are happy that we have about 14 eye hospitals, 7 community clinics, and about 117 vision centers, which does a great job. Last year we have seen about 1 million patients through these camps. In addition, we also have conducted 4,500 eye camps and all we can say outreach, including 2,000 plus ROP screening visits, and we have seen close to about 1 million patients and children, school children all together. And again, to talk about his compassion, the compassion is what made him to start this institution where we are sitting today, the Lions Aravind Institute of Community Ophthalmology. He was not very happy just to limit the work of Aravind just to the people in Tamil Nadu or people around Madurai, but he wanted to take it across the world, and that is why he started the collaboration or the capacity building work for other eye hospitals. Today we have 380 eye hospitals across 29 countries, wherein we are able to serve nearly through them about 1 million patients. With the same compassion to make the eye care affordable is what made Dr. V start the Oro Lab. So today that touches nearly 3 million patients across the world. And again, the same passion is what also made Dr. V start the Aravind Medical Research Foundation to found evidence, the way to find the reasons how these patients can be treated in a much better way. That basic science research really complements our clinical research and epidemiological research, and we are able to do a good job, and because of that we are able to come up with some solutions, treatments which are even followed by people in other countries. So today we are celebrating the life of such a man, and we are very happy to have the oration being given by Martin Spencer today. He is one such individual like our chief. He has dedicated all his life for caring for the people who need eye care. He has visited all the countries, not only India, Nepal, many other countries where his services are required. And we are very happy and we are very honored to have him receive this year's memorial oration. So as you all heard this year, in addition to the October Summit, the oration, we also have several other CMEs and workshops lined up, all with the objective of eliminating needless blindness or making sure that eye care is accessible and available to all the people, including not only the quantity, again the quality. The effective cataract surgical coverage or refractive error correction is all about ensuring quality in the work we do. So with this, once again I welcome all of you for this oration, and I really thank all of you who have joined us today and also who have joined virtually across the world for this meeting. Thank you.
Today is also the day where we honor those personalities who, with their empathy, kindness, and humility, have not only treated patients but also have inspired thousands of medical practitioners. They are an inspiration for all and depict all the qualities which this institute stands for. I would like to welcome Dr. R. Ramakrishnan sir to give a brief introduction for one such personality who is present amongst us today.
Respected PM sir and madam, and other seniors of Aravind Eye Care System, my dear colleagues, sisters and friends, and other Aravind hospital staff. A very warm good evening to all of you. I am really happy today and also privileged to introduce one of the most popular cataract surgeon, especially who has done lots of things in the developing countries, from training to mentoring and also introduction of certain newer techniques by a simple man. That's the unsung hero. This is not mine version. This is given in the American Academy of Ophthalmology. This is another than our Dr. Martin Spencer. Before that, I want to thank Dr. RDR for giving such a wonderful introduction about the. He has given in a short period of time what Dr. V has given, told in his lifetime, the essence of Dr. V's life and also the teachings, which is very, very important for all of us, because we have to continue the same legacy to move it forward so that we can be do so much of service to the humanity. So Dr. Martin Spencer, of course, is a great teacher. He's a teacher for me, and also more patient man. I've never seen such a wonderful. I saw him getting anger all the time. When I saw him in 1988, same Martin Spencer. There is no change. And also he mentored to so many doctors, excellent surgeon, and of course quite calm and a great human being. And of course he did his medical degree in Chicago and a residency at the University of Western Ontario. Currently he lives in Vancouver Island in Canada. He joined, as earlier told, he joined Seva Canada in 1986, and this is a statement given by Gilbert, Susan Gilbert. Dr. Spencer has a very distinct sense of justice. He wants everyone to have the quality of eye care that can be found in Canada and the US. The same thing what our founder, Dr. V also, his theme was same thing. He wants to provide eye care to all what patients can get in US or other developed countries. Even a village man should get an eye oil. That's the same dream our Martin Spencer also had at that time. That's why a Tibetan monk once called him as a true embodiment of Buddha. This is a great thing about Dr. Spencer, because of his service to humanity and humility. And his first visit to Aravind was in 1988, even though Dr. V knows him for more than before 1980. This is during the inauguration of the Tirunelveli Aravind Hospital. Of course, I am not able to get the old picture. Here also everybody is, including our chief, Madam PN, everybody is here, ED, everybody is here in this picture. And of course, later he operated on Dr. Kim's mother. That's one thing we cannot forget. He did FACO at that time. Everybody was so, we are very happy that he has operated Kim's Janima. And I am very privileged and to have him in Theni. PN was used to come to Theni every weekly once to do cataract surgery. Most of you don't know. PN was an excellent cataract surgeon, ECCE. His suture, nobody can replicate the suture. He put 8, 10, something like that, radial suture. Still is remembering that suture. So when Spencer came to Aravind, he came to, Theni was the first branch. So he came to Theni and stayed with me for about a week to teach me exact capsular and of course the SCCS, the basic of SCCS. At that time, Vivek was about 4 years old. He was playing with Vivek and things. I was 35 years at that time, and I don't know about the age of Spencer at that time. It's really a memorable moment, and also with his family. It's a wonderful family, Dr. Spencer's family, Dr. Mrs. Thies, and his children, 3 daughters are wonderful. Every time they used to come in as a whole, and they will spend all the time, and almost like a family. And of course, his wife, she helped in designing the logo of Aravind Eye Care System at that time. That's one thing they have done beautifully. We have to thank Spencer family for that. And also, later he played a pivotal role in the setup of RO Lab with other friends like David Green and other things. And he himself designed so many. So every time he comes, he used to come with some new instruments. And also he has designed few IOLs also with RO Lab. And he has published many papers, given lectures extensively, especially in developing it. His main idea, his main goal is to develop and upgrade the cataract surgical technique and quality in developing countries. And of course, not only the older generation, he himself will keep in touch with the younger generation. All the younger generation also have a very good relationship with our Martin Spencer. And he has received so many awards. And recently he received an ACR, American Society of Cataract and Refractive Humanitarian Shang and Crandall Humanitarian Award this year. And he has he has told that I am deeply honored and humbled to receive this award. This recognition not only symbolizes the collective efforts of those committed to eradicating cataract blindness and disability, but underscores the importance of sustained, impactful humanitarian service. So I share this honor with the dedicated team of 𝐂𝐫𝐿 Foundation. And at the end, he told, together we will continue to make strides in restoring sight and improving the country's countless lives around the world. So all the time he was thinking not only Canada or US, he was thinking our world, especially in the developing countries. As I mentioned, he has traveled and helped in so many countries. And in the statement at that time, no, this is one thing it touched me very deeply. That's I measure my success, this is Dr. Spencer's wordings. I measure my success not by the number of surgeries that I do, but the number of surgeries being done after I leave. This is one thing, like our chief, he developed Aravind Eye Care System not to serve Tamil Nadu or India, whole world. He wants to continue like Meenakshi Amman temple. So same thing as our Spencer here. So, humanitarian and an ambition to resource strikes worldwide. His journey is continuing. He is a perfect example for patience, persistence, and humility. And the award money, $1,100,000, we gave to Vancouver Blindness Society. So here, I'm very happy that Aravind Eye Care System has conferred this a prestigious Dr. Venkataswamy Memorial Award and Oration to Martin Spencer in this day. Thank you very much.
Now I would like to invite Dr. Krishnadas sir on the stage for reading of the citation.
Dr. Martin Henry Spencer, an ophthalmologist and humanitarian from Canada, is well known for his role in enhancing ophthalmic practices in developing countries. Driven by a passion for improving eye care in challenging settings, Dr. Spencer has dedicated his life to restoring sight while emphasizing quality and ensuring continuity of eye care services. He has been at the forefront in simplifying modern surgical techniques in cataract surgery, especially to make it relevant for resource-limited settings. Beyond his clinical work, Dr. Spencer also mentors the next generation of ophthalmologists by sharing his skills and knowledge. In addition, he has also published several papers and lectured on topics related to cataract surgery and eye care delivery in developing countries. Dr. Spencer's efforts have earned him numerous awards and honors, including the Chang Crandall Humanitarian Award from the American Society of Cataract and Refractive Surgery Foundation. This award, which acknowledges his humanitarian contributions, includes a $100,000 cash prize, and Dr. Spencer has earmarked the prize money to the Vancouver-based eye care charity 𝐒𝐫𝐞𝐽𝐻 Canada. Other accolades include the Louis Perenbum Award in International Development, the Achievement Award from the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness, the Outpost Magazine Global Volunteer Award, the Verge Magazine Global Hero Award, the Lifetime Service Award from 𝐒𝐫𝐞𝐽𝐻 Canada Society, the Governor General Award for Volunteers, the King Charles III Coronation Medal, and the American Academy of Ophthalmology Senior Achievement Award of 2024. Dr. Spencer has designed several instruments for cataract surgery as well as intraocular lenses specifically tailored for use in remote areas or mobile eye cams. His introduction of numerous technical and procedural innovations has aided in cataract extraction and intraocular lens implantation in low-income countries, promoting manual suturized cataract surgery with improved visual outcomes. Dr. Spencer regularly travels to regions of need including India, Nepal, Tibet, Malawi, Guatemala, and Cambodia. He works in eye camps in remote locations where there is limited or no access to eye care, training professionals to perform cataract surgery. The approach that he developed and teaches makes the procedure easier, safer, and faster. Dr. Spencer often stays in tents along with the local team and on occasions using roadside water pumps and facilities. Notably, as a volunteer, he does not receive any compensation and pays for his trips himself. More than an ophthalmologist, he is a humanitarian, a virtue recognized by many. Once, a Tibetan monk called him the true embodiment of the Buddha, acknowledging his service to humanity with humility. Dr. Spencer always describes his service to others as both satisfying and addictive, saying, "You won't find anything more satisfying or rewarding." Dr. Spencer shared a close connection with Dr. G. Venkataswamy and the larger team members of Aravind Eye Care System. During his multiple visits, he contributed to significantly enhancing the surgical care at Aravind by transferring technical knowledge and providing updates on modern practices. He played a key role in upgrading surgical procedures across various facilities at Aravind. He also trained residents at Aravind in microsurgery and intraocular implantation techniques. Aravind Eye Care System is proud and privileged to confer Dr. G. Venkataswamy Memorial Award for the year 2004 and Dr. Martin Henry Spencer in appreciation of her significant contributions to revolutionizing cataract surgical practices worldwide and improving the lives of visually impaired in developing countries, enabling them to experience the world without constraints.
In this auditorium, wherever we look, we are surrounded by stalwarts of ophthalmology. Every name I take is a great in their own field. What it means to be speechless, I understood today. With this being said, I would now like to invite Dr. P.N. Sir, Dr. G.N. Ma'am, R.D.R. Sir, 𝐂𝐸𝐧𝐿 Sir, and R.K. Sir for presentation of citation and award. Now, it is time to invite Dr. Martin Spencer Sir to share his personal journey with the gathering today.
Wow. Thank you for those amazing introductions. If I were smart, I'd go home right now. It feels so strange to get all this attention for doing something I love. When I got the email from Ravi inviting me to do it, my first reaction was to feel humbled, especially when I saw the list of previous speakers. I feel completely inadequate to be in that list of giants. But even that feeling pales when I think of the reason for this event, the person whose name we commemorate and honor, Dr. Venkataswamy. Arrow keys? Sorry. Could we turn the lights down? I'd rather people look there rather than at me. It's much more interesting. Can you hear me? It's a stupid question, isn't it? Can everyone hear me at the back? To call Dr. Venkataswamy a giant misses the point. I often give talks about 𝐒𝐫𝐈 at home. And of course, you can't talk about 𝐒𝐫𝐈 without talking about Aravind and Dr. V. And in my description of him, I say that he's as close to a saint as anyone I've ever met. And that's true. I consider it one of my life's great privileges to have been in his presence. I'm not going to go on at great length about him because there's no way I could do him justice to the person he was and to what he accomplished. I would only like to point out that for all his spiritual and material accomplishments, he was very much a human being with a sense of humor. And I like to remember him as he appears here. As I hope I've made clear, I feel a bit of an imposter in the company of past speakers. I'm not an academic and consider myself more of a foot soldier in the battle against blindness, one who has been lucky to be in the right place at the right time to make a bit of a difference. So my talk will be very anecdotal. And that's a word that academics look down on. But in my case, the story is the thing. I've always kept a detailed diary, and I will at times read you excerpts from my diary written at the time. Since this is a story, I'll start at the beginning. My first trip as a 𝐶𝐶𝐵 volunteer was to Nepal in 1987. I'd always been aware of my privilege growing up where I did, with loving parents in a country with, among other things, free health care for all. I'd always had the thought of giving back and putting my professional skills to use seemed the best way. When I arrived in Nepal with my young family, I really had very little idea of what I was going to do or what I had to offer. All I knew was that I had wanted, in the words of 𝐒𝐫𝐞𝐫 co-founder 𝐕𝐞𝐧𝐤𝐚𝐵, to put my good where it'll do the most. I always like that one. As it turned out, I was in a good position to make a difference. I was the first ophthalmologist in my community to do the new extracapsular cataract and IOL surgery, and invented some instruments, techniques, and IOLs for doing extracapsular surgery, and developed an instrument set that was much simplified from the traditional one. This was the standard instrument set that was in common use then, and this was my streamlined set. You can see the smaller number of instruments with duplication of function makes teaching and instrument maintenance easier and streamlines surgery. And obviously the smaller instrument set is considerably cheaper. When I arrived in Nepal, in Lumbini, I found that almost all the cataract surgery was intracapsular, and patients were each given the same standard glasses for aphakia. The donated IOLs in the storeroom were being used only rarely. 𝐒𝐫𝐞 had done studies showing that within 2 years of surgery, 50% of aphakic patients had lost or broken their glasses and were once again blind. So the need for IOLs was obvious. Since most of the cataracts were mature or hypermature, extracapsular surgery was safer and actually faster because of the smaller incision. I began teaching extracapsular surgery and the use of IOLs. The Nepali ophthalmologists were eager to learn the new technique. On my second day in the OT, the power went off in the middle of the surgery. I sat back and assumed that we would wait for the power to come back on. I was surprised when one of the assistants produced a flashlight and shone it on the eye. I discovered that it was possible to operate without coaxial illumination, especially with mature cataracts. By the time I did my first eye camp, I had become used to not having the best of equipment and felt comfortable implanting IOLs in all patients. In eye camps, I learned to operate with loupes and even with no magnification, taking advantage of my myopia. Who needs LASIK, right? I also operated at one point by the light of a kerosene lantern, believe it or not. The use of IOLs quickly became popular, and I later heard that the next year patients came to eye camps requesting the glasses inside the eye. This was a funny moment in an eye camp, and a man who had had successful IOL surgery complained that friends of his who had had surgery the year before had been given free glasses after surgery. Dr. Detal is pointing out that he sees 6'9" without glasses, while his friends are blind without their glasses. But of course, most people reacted more like this woman. On that first trip, I discovered 3 things: the enormous need for IOLs, the equally great need for teaching surgical technique, and that I loved teaching. I would never have guessed. That summer, 1987, I went to my first 𝐒𝐫𝐞 Foundation board meeting in California, where I met Dr. Venkataswamy and heard more about Aravind. It was suggested that I visit there the next year when I returned to Nepal. They didn't need to ask me twice. I made my first trip to Aravind the next year, in 1988. Here, I mentioned my diary. Here's my diary entry from my first time in the OT. Virtually all ophthalmologists sit when performing intraocular surgery, but here the surgeon was standing. I was introduced to Dr. Nacher, who greeted me without slowing her operating pace. Her technique was excellent, and I was amazed when she apologized for her slowness, as she was making a demonstration video and felt the steps should be shown at a more deliberate speed than normal for the sake of clarity. I spent the next 3 hours watching as she carried up about a dozen of the 20 extra IOLs and 20 cataracts she did that day, about 5 times the output of a busy surgeon back home. When one case was finished, the head of the microscope was swung over to the adjoining operating table where the next patient lay, prepped and draped. I observed a few cases carried out by other Aravind ophthalmologists, all with very good technique, if not with 𝐼𝐸𝐺𝐻's speed. I quickly discovered that everything I heard was true. I was stunned by the quantity of work, the quality of work, and the spirit with which the work was done. Dr. 𝐼𝐸𝐺𝐻 quickly put me to work teaching fellows and some of the staff. My first visit wasn't very long, but long enough to realize that Aravind was going to end up teaching the world. And I was happy to be able to spend a little time with Dr. Venkataswamy, who impressed me with his ability to use the talents of any visiting person to help with the work. I remember him speaking about the importance of outreach, acknowledging that in all likelihood there were cataract blind people within a kilometer of the hospital, unaware that their blindness was terrible. He told me, as he did to anyone within earshot, that if McDonald's can make a hamburger at low cost and constant quality available to anyone, anywhere in the world, that cataracts should be made available in the same fashion. I'm sure that's the first time you've all heard that. I was happy to see that there was in my interest in my techniques, both in cataract surgery itself and in doing minor procedures such as IOL manipulations and capsulotomies at the slit lamp under topical anesthesia. On my first trip to Nepal, I had been accompanied by my wife Trish and my then two daughters, Nicole, 7, and Laura, 5. Trish, who was an artist, had contributed to the work by making posters to encouraging eating of vegetables to prevent vitamin A deficiency. My family couldn't come with me on my first trip to Aravind, as Trish was pregnant with our third daughter, Justine. The next year, in 1989, I returned to Aravind, this time with my family, for several weeks. Again, from my diary, February 14th, 1989. We were all drenched in sweat by the time we arrived at the guest house, which appeared instantly as the haven I already knew it to be. There was Janaki's warm, welcoming smile and Pandi's toothless grin. Strange how much it felt like a homecoming, considering I'd been there less than a week last year. Everyone was delighted with the children, especially with Justine, who, with the aid of a children's walker supplied by Janaki, took her first steps in the courtyard of the guest house. And that's, of course, the original hospital you probably all know. Again, from my diary, I was taken to the free hospital where I observed several cataracts being operated by staffmen and residents at adjoining tables. Well executed, but all done by loupes, all ICCE, and all with only 3 sutures. Made my way up to the OT at the main hospital, saw the familiar diminutive form of Dr. 𝐼𝐸𝐺𝐻 standing, as always, as she worked. She greeted me warmly and introduced me to the residents and fellows observing her. Dr. Spencer taught me everything I know. She lies very graciously. My first student turned out to have had virtually no experience at the operating microscope, and I found it nerve-wracking to have to teach him microsurgical principles at the same time as extracapsular technique. I suggested they should be encouraged to practice with instruments under a microscope, with or without animal eyes, before time is spent in live surgery. A manual of microsurgical technique might also be of help. February 17th, Trish had been spending all her available time working on possible logos for the hospital. Various designs have been suggested over the years, but none has satisfied Dr. V. It would clearly be an achievement if she came up with something they all liked. I suggested an eye with an iris composed of cupped hands surrounding a lamp with flame. February 28th, went in with Trish to show Nutshare and Dr. V her ideas for a hospital logo. Well received by all, though Dr. V was, as always, inscrutable. March 14th, she had done more work on the logo, and it seems they are close to making a final decision. Nutshare is clearly pleased with what Trish has produced, and even Dr. V seems to approve. Trish had also produced a booklet regarding volunteer diagnosis of cataract, and apparently Dr. V gave his unreserved approval. Unheard of. As you might have guessed, the logo was given the final approval by Dr. V and is still the proud symbol of Aravind. I wish she could hear that. Maybe she is. Over the next 3 years, I made annual trips to Nepal, mainly doing IOL workshops around the country. I also took part in a large eye camp in Ganeshpuri outside of Mumbai. Numerous Aravind ophthalmologists and assistants also took part, so I had a chance to see that the excellence at Aravind was transferable. One of the most important collaborations between Aravind and 𝐒𝐫𝐈 came during this period. The use of IOLs was increasing, but availability was limited, as many of them were donations obtained from the IOL companies, usually by David Green, who in those days described himself as a corporate beggar. The 𝐒𝐫𝐈 board was initially opposed to the use of IOLs, because it was thought they were too expensive. Although I do remember saying at a board meeting, they're made of plastic, we could make them. I think Larry Brilliant was influenced by Dr. Karl Kupfer. He's standing behind 𝐒𝐞𝐧𝐤𝐚𝐫𝐿 there on the steps. He was the head of the National Eye Institute, and at a meeting there in Washington, I told Dr. Kupfer of our success using IOLs, even in eye camps, and of people coming requesting the glasses inside the eye. His response, which shouldn't have surprised me, was, "That's anecdotal." But with time, the board was persuaded, and it was proposed that IOLs be manufactured at Aravind. And with a grant from 𝐒𝐫 Canada, financial support from the 𝐒𝐫 Foundation, and technical expertise obtained through David Green, Oral Lab was established. And we all know what an overwhelming success that's been. Supplying not only Aravind's needs, but providing lenses to over 160 countries and driving down the cost of IOLs, making them more accessible to those in need. It's amazing when you think about it. Not to mention the many other products that have resulted in improved eye care throughout the world. And of course, Aravind later produced the groundbreaking Madurai IOL study, which provided the academic proof that Dr. Kupfer had demanded. During those next 3 years, I began doing phacoemulsification surgery back home. I had resisted it for several years because there seemed to be no clinical advantage over manual surgery. But I soon adopted sutureless surgery with phaco. One of the hospitals where I worked was small and didn't have a phaco machine. I had seen the advantages of the sutureless incision and had read Dr. Blumenthal's description of removing the intact nucleus manually through a sutureless incision. I developed my own version of manual sutureless surgery using a scleral tunnel incision and removing the nucleus with a vectus. I was sorry about this one. I was keeping track of my results, including refractive error and astigmatism, on a small handheld computer, and I found that the refractive results with manual technique were as good as with phaco. In particular, I found that placing the incision temporally made a huge difference in reducing induced astigmatism. And this is particularly important for the poor. Of course, they're the ones less likely to obtain glasses, so it's not the rich who have refractive surgery. I mean, they're going to get their treatment. It's the poor who would otherwise not be able to get glasses, or who we need to pay attention to. I was quite excited by the new technique and thought it would be perfect to use with my work in India and Nepal, as it would be much cheaper and more efficient than phaco, and produce better vision without glasses, than the older extracapsular technique. It would also be cheaper than standard ECCE as the cost of the suture is eliminated. On my next trip to Aravind in 1994, it didn't happen quite as quickly as I'd expected. Again, in my diary. Probably because of sleep deprivation, had a better night's sleep than usual, considering jet lag. As promised, the van was outside the door to take me to the hospital at 8. 𝐼𝐴 and Arup had planned the morning with me to demonstrate capsular rhexis and phaco, and then assist others attempting variations on these themes. It was an experience to do a phaco case with jet lag combined with unfamiliar instruments and machine, with a large audience hanging on every word and movement. To add to the fun, the tunnel knife was dull, the phaco, unbeknownst to me, had been set on non-linear, and the IOL had angulated haptics, the worst for sutureless incision and capsular rhexis. Fortunately, all went well, and I then demonstrated my outer dissection technique. I actually do know how to spell. April 15th, 16th. Once again, awake at 5 a.m., contemplating the soft cubic whiteness of my mosquito enclosure, the hum of the air conditioner faintly audible without my hearing aids, thinking of home, family, and how to steer 𝐼𝐴 away from phaco and toward manual sutureless surgery. Last day in the OT. I'd mentioned 2 days before to 𝐼𝐴 that it might be helpful for her to have a video of sutureless manual cataract surgery, at least in part to remove the emphasis from phaco. Last night I'd also mentioned it to Tulsi. I felt uncomfortable leaving it to the last day, but there seemed no choice, as it clearly was 𝐼𝐴's intention to have all the senior staff work with me at phaco. When I arrived in the OT, there was no sign of the video. I assisted 𝐼𝐴 in another phaco, which she managed well. She then asked if I would demonstrate a manual phaco, as she calls sutureless surgery. By now, the video had arrived. The case was set to go, but the video wouldn't function properly. Finally, I couldn't leave the cornea drying any longer and went ahead. And then another, still no recorder. This time, 𝐼𝐴 asked if I would use their nucleus cleaving instruments, which they'd never tried. I pointed out that I'd never used them either. Interesting to try a new technique with a large audience. Fortunately, all went well. Finally, the video was ready, and I started another case. By this time, all the blades and needles had been used several times and were dull, so the procedure looked far from elegant. Mercifully, it went otherwise smoothly. This was followed by another demonstration of manual sutureless technique. April 17th. We were then left to pack, then brought back to the hospital where we spent our last hour with Dr. V. He walked around his office, pulling books, pamphlets, and brochures from the shelves. All were concerned with development work, but from all imaginable aspects. He even had a book of holiday inns worldwide. He's tried to get in touch with McDonald's to get thoughts on social marketing, franchising, and particularly staff motivation and training. We spoke of the use of IOLs in the free hospital. Astonishingly enough, the use of IOLs has risen so fast that the free hospital is almost self-sustaining. It becomes clear that the free work can be seen as a loss leader, which brings in paying patients. If left to 𝐒𝐫𝐈, the IOLs would have been given free to the free hospital patients. They still are if there's a medical condition such as monocular cataract, youth occupation, etc. It's obvious that they made the correct decision. The free patients are now coming for surgery much earlier, as predicted, and the majority are able to afford the 500 rupees for an IOL. This number has been rising rapidly as word-of-mouth advertising does its work. Should we try to change the pattern in Lumbini and charge for IOLs in free patients? It was also interesting to hear that the criteria for cataract surgery have changed to match those in the West, namely patient demand. They will operate on a patient with 6/9 vision if it's desired, rather than rely on arbitrary criteria. While discussing these points with Dr. V, the video technician appeared with a tape. I had done a surgery yesterday, and he was presenting me with an edited, titled tape converted to NTSC format the next day. Amazing. I mean, in those days that was amazing. It isn't now. As usual, on that trip, I traveled on to Nepal, where I did a few workshops teaching 𝐒𝐫𝐈OL surgery to several groups around the country. I ended in Lumbini, where I had been working with Dr. Dittal, the head of the program, for 7 years. At the end of the workshop, I showed the video of manual sutureless surgery that I brought from Aravind. 6 months later, I received an email from Dr. Dittal, who, going only from the video, had done several hundred manual sutureless surgeries. But that's not the most remarkable part. Because of the shape of the operating tables, he was unable to sit at the side of the table to operate temporally, as I had demonstrated. So he sat at the head of the table. He still did temporal incisions, though, using his right hand to make the incision in the right eye, and his left hand to make the incision in his left eye. The part that amazed me most, though, was that he didn't have any crescent blades for making the scleral tunnel, so he was using a blade breaker. I imagine most of you don't even know what that is, but we used to use this instrument there to you snap off the corner of a razor blade and use the fragment, and of course the blades were irregular in shape, but the point is they were very sharp. The tips are sharp. So how he was able to make a scleral tunnel with a blade breaker just amazed me. I don't know how he managed to do that. But I've come to accept this. Not only with Dr. Dittal, but with all the surgeons at Aravind. I would demonstrate a technique, and next year my so-called students would be doing it better and faster than me. Many times I would ask myself, who is teaching whom here? And that's why I love teaching. It's the ripple effect. You throw a pebble into a pond and you don't know how far the ripples are going to spread. I returned to Aravind later that same year, but this time with my family. From a personal point of view, that visit was very special for all of us. We were at Aravind over Christmas, which for my family, it's a secular holiday, but one with great importance as it always brings the whole family together. And of course, there was always great excitement among the children because of the exchange of gifts. On Christmas Day, Dr. Natcher wouldn't allow me to work, so I took the whole family to the free hospital, where my children, they were standing at the back, see there. My children saw many of the 175 free surgeries that were done that day. Gave them a very special look at the meaning of giving. And the children loved even more the Christmas party arranged for us with gifts for all. Once again, I was asked to teach 𝐸𝐸𝐾𝐫, this time to all of the department heads. When I say this now, it sounds preposterous. I remember going to Trincomalee to teach Dr. Ravi. Can you imagine that, me teaching Dr. Ravi? He picked it up instantly, by the way. But that just underlines my point about being in the right place at the right time. I had the privilege of living in a part of the world where something different was being done. And I was just passing it on. While my preference was for manual sutureless surgery, I understood that there was a desire to keep up to date with the latest techniques. And 𝐸𝐸𝐾𝐫 provided an opportunity to attract paying patients, so I was happy to teach 𝐸𝐸𝐾𝐫. Another highlight of that trip was operating on Janaki. When I was asked, I felt honored and terrified. December 22nd, Morris is in the OT, and then back to Natcher's office at 5:45. Janaki was there, apparently ready for surgery tomorrow. I had been hearing reports that she'd been putting off the surgery for some time out of anxiety. A dense nucleus, and the pupil was 4 millimeters. Natcher assured me that the dilating drops had only recently been placed and that she would dilate better. I hope so. There's enough pressure without it being a technically difficult case. I woke at 1 a.m. with Janaki on my mind and feel the weight of expectation. Janaki is the first member of the Aravind family to undergo cataract surgery, and I'm sure I'll feel it an honor to have been selected after it's over. I put in the speculum and my heart sank as I saw that the pupil was still no larger than 4 millimeters.
I started and was given my first bevel-down crescent knife. Not wanting to object, I proceeded, extra cautious for fear I'd tear the flap. The capsule erectus was difficult because of the small pupil and dense nucleus. Halfway around, I lost sight of the margin, zooming in, probing, almost saying prayers for the sight of that diaphanous interface that would identify the advancing tear. Eventually, I saw the glint that indicates the sweep of the tear progressing. I grooved the nucleus as deeply as I dared, not wanting to go under the iris, which had constricted to 3 millimeters by now, as there was considerable posterior pressure in shallow anterior chamber. I had just positioned my hook in the phaco tip to crack the nucleus when 𝐿𝐚𝐾𝐫 made a sudden head movement. I pulled back and surprised myself with the gentleness of my reprimand. "You mustn't move, 𝐿𝐚𝐾𝐫," as I can be quite abrupt during a difficult procedure. For the remainder of the case, she kept still, but coughed several times. It was only when one of my lenses was sliding into the bag that I breathed normally. In another 10 minutes, I could feel my headache ebbing. Only when I had taken the speculum out did I look up and realize that I had an audience of at least 20, minus Natcher, who I was told left the room when she saw the small pupil. She reappeared at the end of the case, referred to my blood pressure, and I patted my heart rapidly. The combination of relief over 𝐿𝐚𝐾𝐫's surgery going well and the graciousness and generosity of everyone made it a most memorable Christmas for my family. I believe it was also in that trip that I suggested that Oralab manufacture a PMMA IOL with a sharp posterior edge to reduce capsular opacification. This did happen, although it was quite a few years later that David Chang organized a study that, again, gave the academics the proof they needed. Some months after demonstrating manual sutureless surgery at Aravind, I received an email from Dr. Natcher. She was writing a textbook on the technique and would I edit it. I, of course, agreed, and my first edit was the title. Dr. Natcher wanted to call the technique manual phaco. I pointed out that the nucleus isn't emulsified in the manual technique, so the name wouldn't fit. I suggested manual sutureless cataract surgery, or MSCS, as the main characteristics of the technique are that it's manual and sutureless. Dr. Natcher thought small incision cataract surgery was more appropriate, as the incision was smaller than what had been used in the old standard ECCE. We all know who won that argument. Although at least I noticed that the name is usually extended these days to manual small incision cataract surgery. Of course, the important thing isn't the name, but that the technique is adopted. And as with Dr. Vittal, taking the technique to new heights, here at Aravind, you have elevated it to an art form. On a subsequent trip, I witnessed your surgeons doing up to 20 cases an hour, which still astonishes me. In fact, when I would lecture back home about surgical technique and talk about your speed, I would see in the audience expressions of disbelief. I began showing a video, unedited, of Dr. Venkatesh doing 2 back-to-back cases, each one a particularly challenging one, and see the expressions change from disbelief to amazement. Since then, Aravind has established such a worldwide reputation that I no longer have to follow my descriptions of activities and accomplishments here with, yes, it's really true. Now everyone knows. I made other trips to Aravind after that, but none where I had anything significant to add to Arvind's astonishing achievements. Although I did bring my children again. Here you can see Justine and Laura doing patient interviews. But unfortunately not Trish, who, as most of you know, died in 1997. I'd like to acknowledge that she made my overseas work possible, taking care of the children both while I was away and when we were traveling, and giving me endless encouragement. It was a shock to realize that it's been 9 years since I last visited Aravind, especially considering the huge place that it occupies in my heart. This is not for lack of desire, but because I have very little to teach you now. You are indeed teaching the world. That's why I'm particularly glad that I got this award at keeping the excuse to come back. I'm so happy to be here. I continue to volunteer every year, moving to other countries as 𝐸𝐵's footprint has expanded. I've made at least one trip and sometimes several to Tibet, to Mexico, Guatemala, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Malawi, China. That's Dr. Ganesh there beside me. Myanmar, Cambodia, and most recently this year, Madagascar. Always with the goal of improving the quality, efficiency, and safety of surgery, and I hope bringing a little of the spirit of Aravind. Aravind has taught me by example that anything is possible, and it's possible to make a difference. No matter what skills you have, as long as you're flexible and able to listen, to see that others might have a better answer than yours. I also learned from Dr. V the importance of reaching the unreached and that they are deserving of the best care possible. My favorite example of this was at an eye camp I did in the foothills of Mount Everest many years ago. I operated on a woman who had been blind from cataracts and was led by her husband for the 10-day trek to the camp. Actually, we had to trek in as well, but from the opposite direction. After I operated on her, I had the privilege of watching her see her son for the first time. Although it's been many years since I operated on that woman, I still think often of her and the difference that I made in her life. I think all of us want to make a difference, to leave the world a better place. I would encourage those of you who are starting your careers to think about how you can make a difference. Use your skills in the most useful way possible. It won't always be easy, but persistence is key. Whatever appears impossible often turns out to be possible. As I hope I've made clear, I feel I was lucky to be in the right place at the right time. It's as if I happened to catch a wave and ride it. And now I just stand in awe at the astounding progress being made at Aravind and the ripple effects around the world. I also keep in mind the words of Suzanne Gilbert, who told me on my very first trip to Nepal, I asked her how I could join 𝐸𝐵. Her reply was, you can't join, but you can never leave. And for me, that applies to Aravind as well. All I can do is look on in amazement and wonder if even Dr. V would be amazed. I suspect that he would, and over the last several days, I've been asked several of you who agreed. But I'm even more sure that his next words would be, and this is what we should do next. Thank you.
Sir, it is an honor for us to have you here today. You have inspired us all. Now, it is time for culturals. India takes pride in its myriad of dance forms, representing the culturally rich diaspora of its states, which, despite its diverse form of execution, are unified by a sense of synchrony and harmony. Presenting to you a medley of 4 dance forms, Bharatnatyam, Kathak, Kuchipudi, and Shastriya.
ta jum nam ta rum ta dhalam ku tak tak da 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 gida 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 ta tar gida gida ta jum dim da ta ta jum nam da ka ta gida jum ta ta dim tum nam ta da ta gida 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 di ta dhana ta ta tar gida gida dhana ta ta dhana ta ta dim ta tari ta ta dhana ta 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 di ta dhana ta dhana ta de ta gida 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 ta ta dim tar gida gida 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 jum tar gida gida ta gida gida tar gida gida dim gida gida tar gida gida dong gida gida tar gida gida.
Now, I would like to invite Dr. Kim sir for a vote of thanks.
Respected Dr. Martin Spencer, senior members of the Aravind Eye Care System, respected guests, my dear friends, it's my once again a pleasant duty to thank every one of you for coming here to honor Dr. V and our special guest, Dr. Martin Spencer, today, who gave a wonderful, wonderful talk. It was really very inspiring for every one of us. It was really amazing. I really want to thank him for coming all the way from Canada in spite of his different busy schedules. I know he travels a lot, but this was a one special trip he made. Thank you, Dr. Marty, for coming all the way. I once again thank all the members of this whole event who organized this event. Everyone, I don't want to name every one of them. It has really been a wonderful event. I want to thank all the people who were involved in arranging this event. I want to once again thank, as a senior member of this organization, I want to thank every member of the Aravind family who have made Aravind what it is today. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. V, our founding president, and all the senior members of the Aravind Eye Care System for guiding us to where we are. I thank again, and we hope we'll continue to run and take the mission of Dr. V forward in the years coming ahead. Thank you all.
I request everyone to stand for national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभाशिष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे